Hello everybody, my name is Farmer Phil and today we are here at Liffey Mills. We are going to be doing a mill tour, having a look at how the toasters work and all the insides of the mill, stuff that you don't normally get to see, so it should be quite interesting. We're here with Mick. He's going to show us around the mill and tell us about how everything works. And as you can see, masks on, and we will go for the tour now. I suppose there's not much else to say. So
ground maze going in there, so that's just the whole grain that we saw in the intake. There's a small grinder upstairs and we can grind away there. That'll do maybe 2 tons an hour. So it is dusty, but it just goes through a screen. The speeder bars go out through a screen. I'll show you on the big grinders in a while, but it's the same principle. It's just a small grinder. That's it. Okay, so the intake is here. You can see there's 2 little hoppers, right? So the grain comes in, up the elevator, into a cleaner. The dust and any straw, whatever, is cleaned out of it in the cleaner. Then it's back down into this elevator, up again, and into the top of the dryer. So this is your grain dryer. This one is diesel fired. There's 2 diesel burners there. Here for the grain dryer. Okay. There is 2 fans on top of the roof, and they suck in the air. So the air is being sucked in here, through each of those little triangles that you see, those baffled pieces, right? So if you can imagine, this dryer is full of grain. There's 45 ton of grain in the whole dryer, right? Now, the process is that the fans are up at the top of that and they're sucking air through the whole thing. So above that door, there is another 3/4 of the height of it. And above those doors is where the hot air is. So these burners are blowing up the hot air. Yeah. So the fans on the top are sucking out through the whole lot. It's sucking cold air through this part of it, and on top of those doors it's hot air.
It's a cooler dryer.
Exactly.
Or dryer cooler.
Dryer cooler.
Dryer
right?
cooler, yeah.
So what happens is, on the top part of it, it's pulling the hot air through the grain. Yeah. Hot air takes moisture away from the grain, and as the grain comes down through the dryer, the cold air cools it back down again. So you can take whatever. Yes,
it's a one-stop machine.
One-stop machine, and then it's back out into the grain stores. Yeah,
and it's a continuous cooler, dryer cooler.
Yes, continuous, and depending on how much you want to dry out of your grain, you know, it'll do it for you. Okay. So there are 3 intakes that feed into the mill, into the raw material bins in the mill. So there are 2 here and 1 down in the bottom yard. So here we are intaking flake barley. So it's just 2 augers. So there's 2 hoppers there, 2 augers running. They run at about, it's taken in maybe, I would say, 45 tons an hour. In through that, up the elevator, and then there's a series of conveyors upstairs, which I'll show you soon. Okay. This is the control room. So in here we start off and we have, you type in your recipe number, whatever it is that you're doing. So there's B15, right? And this will give you your formulation, the breakdown in all the wares, and you can send it to your queue there. So this formulation then will automatically start mixing from your wares. This here, this graphic depicts your 6 wares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So these 2 are small mineral wares, and these 4 are the large raw material wares. They're discharged then out of the wares. So generally speaking, we'll do a 4-ton batch. You can do a 1, 2 or a 3-ton batch as well, but generally speaking we do 4-ton batches. So it's weighed out in the 4-ton batch, it discharges out, and it goes into the pre-mix bin. So when all that 4 ton has discharged out with all the minerals that are needed in that ration, they go into this pre-mix bin. When all that 4 ton has gone into the pre-mix bin, the weigher says, right, I'm finished. It drops down into the mixer mixes it, and then it drops down into either the bulk line or the bags line, which is predetermined when you set up the mix. There is an alternative to going to bulk or bags, and that is going to the grinders. So it'll do its 4 ton batch out into a pre-grinder bin, so it's fully discharged into the pre-grinder bin. The weigher say, right, I'm finished discharging. The pre-grinder bin then is ready, so the grinder say, right, I'm ready, I'll take you now. The 4 ton batch then is completely ground out, which takes between 6 and 10 minutes depending on the formulation. Some of them are tougher to grind than others. Down through the grinders and then into another pre-mix bin and a different mixer, and that's mixed away there then. So that is a ground up product at this stage, so it has gone through the grinders and it's ground up, fully ground up, and then that's discharged out of the mixer and up an elevator and in through a molasses auger. We add some molasses at this point and then into 4 pencil bins. So at that point then it switches over to the pelleter system, and the pelleting system, there are 2 pellet lines here, pellet line 1 and pellet line 2. So either one of those day bins then can call for product from the 4 pencil bins. Calls for that product into the day bin, down into the BOA. You have an option on press line 2 of a conditioner or a BOA, and then down into the press itself. So we use BOAs here, some places use double presses, we use a BOA and a press. So both lines are pretty much the same. Press line 2 has a conditioner option as well. So when it goes into the BOA, which also acts as a conditioner, there's steam added, there's molasses added, and it goes all the way out through the BOA down into the press. The more energy you put in at the BOA stage, the less energy that the press has to do to create that pellet. Okay, so I'll show you the mechanics of it up there. I'll turn off one of these, but I'll show you the mechanics of it up there. And we'll be running here generally between 10 and 15 tons an hour in each press, generally speaking 12 tons an hour. So that means that the grinders, for instance, would have to keep 2 presses going at 12 tons an hour, will have to grind at 24 tons an hour, which is a lot of work on the grinders, but that's what they need to do. Any questions on that?
No.
No?
It's some amount of like it's just
there's a lot of machinery, and there's actually, when you work here, there's lots to get used to and lots to learn.
You need a massive system to mind that.
Yeah, it's very impressive that, like, just the sheer amount of stuff.
So the intakes we were looking at outside, there was flake maize going in. The flake maize is coming up an elevator through this conveyor, running down along this central conveyor and out a chute and down into a bin, right? So up here there's a maze of conveyors, and they will feed each of the bins. There's 29 raw material bins up here, plus rolled barley bins. So this series of conveyors is 2 intakes. This comes in off intake 2, and that grey conveyor there, C10, is coming in off intake 3. So they're all coming into the mill, and they all feed the raw material bins, and that's everything that end of the mill. So the 4 weighers that we saw inside, this is weigher 2, weigher 1 is there, and then weigher 3 and 4 are in behind. The 2 small mineral weighers that I talked about, one is bigger than the other is quite small. Yeah, up over your head are all the ingredient bins, right? So each weigher might have 10 bins feeding into it, 5, 6, depending on the depending on the wear. So this one has about 10 feeding into it. When the weighers are finished weighing, they will discharge up into the pre-mix bin. These three conveyors, 51, 50 and 52, they are coming from the weighers. So your 6 weighers will discharge out into those 3 elevators, up the elevators and down into the pre-mix bin for the coarse material. It also has the option, there's a Y valve will change on the discharge of the elevator, Y valve there and the Y valve there, and they'll change the direction it falls into that conveyor that's down under our feet, and that brings it across into the 3 grinder bins and then down into the grinders. And when that's ground out, down into your mixer 3, back up into this molasses auger and into your 4 pencil bins. So this is how the grinders are working, right? So you have your screen here. If you can imagine, the product comes down through here. So the product has been weighed. It goes into the pre-grinder bins. It comes down, then it's fed in here down these, there's 3 pipes feeding into the grinder. It falls down here, so this whole table lifts up, so the screen will be up where those bars are turning there now, right? And then those bars are going at a rate of knots, and it's forcing the material out through this screen. So that's how you get your ground product. So that's what a grinder looks like. So we have 2 grinders here, and as I said before, they need to do between 24 and 30 tons an hour. So it's a lot of grinding, it's a lot of stuff, and that's why you have such big motors on top of it. But that's it, you have your ground material, then falls down into the cone, into a conveyor, and back up. At the top section of that cream coloured machine is your pre-mix bin. The 4 ton that you weighed out down below goes up into the pre-mix bin. When the full 4 ton has discharged out, it drops down into the mixer, which is about halfway down, or 1/3 of the way down. I'll show you. You can see the big motor that drives it just here, yeah. Into the mixer, we might get a shot of that. Into the mixer, and it mixes away, and then it drops down into either the bags line or the bulk line. So at the bottom part there, that's actually 2 bins. It's split in the middle, so it goes either into bags or bulk. This is your day bin for press line 2, and that cream colour bin, that's your day bin for press line 1. Press line 2 has, so the day bin is running, that's controlled down in the control room, and they control the speed of that. We'd like to have that running at about 12 tons an hour, but it can be anywhere from 10 to 15, depending on the formulation product going through. So that discharges out there and it comes up this auger. It can go either into the conditioner or down another chute down into the boa. The conditioner, I can't show you there now, but it's a central shaft with a series of spokes and paddles, directional paddles, and it shuts it down that way, back up this way, and falls down. That's your material, goes straight down to the press. This is what the boil looks like, right? So you have your central shaft. You have a series of spokes with paddles on them. So if I turn that, you see the paddle, right? So it's a series of spokes, directional paddles. So your ground material that has some molasses in it comes down this chute. In here, there's steam added and molasses added at this point. So we can add as much steam as we want, we can add as much molasses as we want, depending on the formulation and how the die is operating at the time, okay? So that material is mixed, it's very, very well mixed with your steam molasses, and it's forced down this direction, okay? When it comes down to this end of the machine, there are 3 rolls, 1, 2, and 3 on the far side, right? These are the rings. Okay, so the rings are tapered in. So they're tapered in like that. Okay, so it's a V shape. The material is forced out through the directional paddles out this direction. These rings, or sorry, these rolls are spinning, right? So they're all connected to that shaft and they're spinning very fast. And that forces the material out through this V shape, right? And that's where it gets its name from, boa constrictor. It's forcing the material out, shoving it out through that. Now that material coming out through here would be a little like the texture of pastry. You know, if you make pastry and it's kind of crummy, so it is forcing particles together. Now, I said to you earlier, the more energy you put in now, the less you have to do with the press, right? This is your die, right? In this case, this is 110 mil, so the thickness of the die is 110 millimeters. So your product comes down through this chute, and as you can see there, the way the door is configured, it shoots the material in. So that material goes in here. There's a plow there, and that forces the material in here onto the die. You have 2 rolls here, so what happens here is the die turns. So all this part turns, those 2 rolls remain in that position, right? The material comes in here, the plow forces the material in across the die, and then that material will come up to the pinch point with this roll, and the roll then, so you have your roll here, and that squeezes it up and squeezes it out through the die. Down here into the cooler, right? So I'll show you the cooler then downstairs. Okay, we'll close this up now. The product then comes from the press down through your rotary seal into the cooler. These coolers work exactly the same way as the coolers do in the toasting plant. Your coldest material is at the bottom here, and you have your cold air. If you can feel the fan pulling in cold air there, comes up through your bed of nuts, and hot air is dispelled away into the atmosphere. As the nuts fill this cooler, they discharge away at the same way as it did down in the toasting plant. Okay, so they're discharged away then up the elevator and through a screener, finished product nut bins. Finished product nut bins, all that in. So there's a capacity there to hold 960 tons of nuts. Right. So these would be standard panels where you have your overloads and contactors for each individual motor around the plant. So this is all the...
there's a fair bit of wire in there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of panels here, a lot of wiring. The control room for the outloading of nuts. We have a weighbridge here, so the lorry will park in on the weighbridge. We will weigh them on the weighbridge, and then we can come around here to this system and you can select whichever nut you want for whichever compartment. There are a series of slides along so the lorry doesn't have to move. There's generally a lorry or a slide that will suit each compartment. Sometimes the lorry might have to move a small amount, but very little. Okay, so you select your bin downstairs, you select the tonnage that you want, and it'll automatically discharge out that tonnage. You have it on the weighbridge, so now it's shutting off. And what will happen now is it will weigh out. The operator will just see is it exactly the weight he wants. It's not exactly what he wants, so he just presses start again to top it up to exactly what he wants. Okay, So it runs along this conveyor. You can get a shot of the chain conveyor there. Line is there, you might be able to see it just falling out there. Yeah. It's falling out there, so if we go downstairs then you can see it. So, all the bulk rations fall out here. They go out through the mixer, down into the holding bin, and then they pass through molasses auger, which is up the top of the mill, down this long chute, and they can either go into these 3 routes or this one here. That's your finished ration there. There is cooked product in that. That's turbo maize. So there's maize and there's beans, plenty of cooked product in it. Okay. That's all.
So, just to finish off today's video, we're to do it in the Jeep, but we just didn't on the way home, but we'll finish it off now. So, it was a huge day.
Yeah, brilliant.
Huge day.
Fascinating. Really, really fascinating, the workings of a mill.
Yeah, it's something that you just don't get to see, and just the whole process and the different inputs, and just like it's a fully nearly automated system. It's just amazing to see.
Yeah, when you open your bag of crunch, you don't realise
everything that goes
all the work that has to be put into that to get it into that bag.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. I know you know about the price of it, but you nearly wonder in ways how they can do it at that price with the amount of work that has to be put into it.
Yeah,
it's a terror.
No, it was amazing. A big thanks to the lads from Liffey Mills for inviting us down and showing us. Big thanks to Mick for showing us around and explaining everything to us. We really did enjoy the day and learned lots, and I hope you learned lots too.
Yeah, no, it was great. No, I'd be really into that, into the workings of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the horsepower of the motors and
was it 200 and
it was 200 kilowatt.
200 kilowatt, them big motors. It wasn't, I don't think we had it in the video, we were told afterward, but the grinder, that was a 200 kilowatt motor.
Jesus, it was just
something else.
And the room with all the electrics in it, like you wouldn't want to be landed in there in the deep end now. No, you definitely want to know what you were at.
Yeah.
That was all the circuit boards and everything. No, big thanks to the boys in Liffey Mills, great. Yeah, really interesting. And
we're feeding the calf 18, and that's doing for us as well, and we're feeding their milk replacer, the Adapto, and the
massively surprised at how quick they're eating it.
The calf 18 it's just amazing. I suppose there's a bit of a gap between when we videoed the first half and then now, but the calf 18 with the calves at the minute is just it's unbelievable.
So calves coming in there at 10-12 days old,
and they're just straight into it. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. But anyways, we'll leave it at that for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. So that is it from us. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday, and hopefully we get some Vintage Thursday videos out there, all going to plan.
The 20 has to be started.
A few things has to be done.
You have to make time for me to get the 20 started.
And we also have a few things to do to get it going. It's not just as straightforward as we thought.
No, it's just not as simple as we thought now.
Anyways.
It's not like just putting in the battery and turning the key now.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. That is it from us. Good luck.